So I suppose I have the absolute pleasure of introducing two fabulous people today rather than one fabulous person. So I feel like I'm doubly lucky this morning. For those of you who are streaming live on Facebook, we have two incredible, gifted human beings, mentors and epic talents with us today to share how to have more impact. So I don't even know how to introduce Paul Dunn. He's been my mentor, my friend. He's an exponential thought leader, entrepreneur, and he's been a 4 times TEDx speaker. And I think that's just being super conservative. I've seen Paul on stage many, many times, and every time he moves me to tears and to want to create a bigger impact. I'm blessed to be able to be in the same room with him time and time again. So it's my pleasure to introduce Paul Dunn to you, and I'm sure he's going to share with you just these absolute nuggets and these words of wisdom that are going to take you to an epic place. And the incredible and very beautiful Jade Green, we were just talking about her awesome energy. Jade is just a star. Yeah, she's a star in her own right. She's a winner of numerous awards, including Businesswoman of the Year. She's been the recipient of one of the first ever awards from the Entourage Group. She's had an incredible journey as a recruiter and a headhunter, and now she lives this extraordinary life, helping people build their teams. And if that's not enough, she is the most effervescent, most caring, most impactful woman. And I'm blessed to call her my mentor and my friend. So for those of you who are here, you are in the very best hands, and I would like to hand it over right now to Jade and to Paul, where they're going to share their wisdom on how to have more impact and really grow your team this year.
Well, I don't know about you, Jay, but I think we should just let Martine go and just just bathe.
Yeah, we'll just like sit back here,
in that wonderful introduction, Martine. Thank you, and all of you joining us wherever you are around the world. I feel very privileged and very grateful that you're here. So thank you so much for sharing what I think is going to be an incredible hour or so. And I'm, again, very privileged to be here.
And Paul, you've had such an impact on the iLabbers that they're actually sitting in the meeting room opposite me, watching you on the big screen. So you're streaming live.
Oh, really?
As well.
Hello, iLabbers.
They all had the opportunity to either do yoga or sleep in or whatever, but no, they decided some more Paul Dunn is what they needed in their life. So that's a testament to what we shared the other day. So
and if I were watching you on Facebook now, I'd want to know how I get those things growing out of my head as well. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Move up and I can have little horns or whatever. I've got the Vision Villa logo behind me. So we talked about today how we can show people how they can cut through and get them on the track to the fast track to great. Oh my gosh, I'm a bit sleepy still, aren't I? How they can differentiate, purposely, matter more and impact more, and how they do that with their teams. So you've been an amazing visible leader, and I know that you've helped create and mentor so many amazing leaders throughout Australia, but throughout the world, really. And it is from them living through their purpose and their why and being different that they've been able to become visible and attract world-class teams. So you know that we have a pretty overarching discussion today. I know that you were doing something. I think, what did you say you were doing? A whiz-bang presentation for me last night?
A whiz-bang. Yeah, a whiz-bang presentation. Yeah. But no. Let's have a discussion. And occasionally, what I might do is go through and do some things. Actually, if you trust me, and I'm sure you do, I thought we could frame our discussion today, because there are 3 things that we wanted to talk about, right? Differentiating purposefully, mattering more, and impacting more. And I had some thoughts on all of those, which might be an interesting place to begin our discussion, if you're up to that. Are you up for that?
You have most definitely gained my trust over the years, my friend. So please.
All righty. Well, let me just do this, and hopefully those of you joining us, and don't do this if you're driving, by the way. Hopefully you've got a pencil and you've got a notepad, and it might be a good idea to jot down some notes, because there's some really interesting little tidbits that I think are going to make a difference. So let's begin with just this framework. Everything that we do has to have a frame. People cannot connect with you unless there's a frame. It's very, very challenging for them to do that. So with that in mind, I thought we might want to have a look at this frame here. And to do that, what I'm going to do is just quickly share my screen with you. And I just want to do this. Okay. So hopefully what you see up there, Jade, you might just confirm that you can see that. That says, hang on, let me. Actually, what I want you to see is this. Okay, legacy and the number 3. You got that? And so, okay, so let's start from this. As Roger Hamilton said once, there's one thing in life that we have no choice over, and that is we are going to leave a legacy. There's no, you don't have any choice about that. The question is, well, you have a little choice. And the question is, what's the type of legacy that you're going to leave? Is it going to be one of consumption, or is it going to be one of contribution? And one of the things that I know we're really into is this whole idea of contribution. And that doesn't mean digging into your pocket and giving money and everything else. It means much more than that. But I wanted to give you just a little frame around this word legacy, because there are really 3 things, and then lead into where we're going to go today. Because really, when I think of the word legacy, I think of 3 things. Most people think of one, and the thing they think about is that. But, what we've got to do is leave one, right? And we don't have any choice. That's going to happen. Whether or not you do anything is going to happen. Again, the question is, what is it going to be like? So let me give you some more L words on this wonderful day. And here's another one. So I think of legacy this way. I think of it as living one. In other words, every single moment, are you really clear about why you're doing what you do? And then that Jade is going to get us into this whole why thing. And then I think from there, leveraging one. And what I mean by leveraging one is by virtue of what you're doing, inspiring others to live a very similar way. That's basically what I mean by that. Or not necessarily the same as you, but inspiring others to live as fulfilled a life as you are leaving. And if you think about those 3 things, then they lead in to these 3 things here. So we've got leaving one, we've got living one, and we've got leveraging one. But alongside that, how do we do that? Well, how do we get into leaving one? Again, we have no choice, but we are going to leave it. Question is, what is it going to be? And where that comes from is, I'm certain, this whole idea of differentiating purposefully. Now, if we were live here, I would ask you, well, we are live, but I mean, if we could kind of interact, then it would be rather obvious, I would perhaps ask you how many of us have competitors, and we would all say, well, of course we do, right? It's like asking you a question like, how many of us breathe? But the question is, how do we differentiate, and how do we differentiate purposefully? And that's going to be a little frame that Jade and I are going to get into in a minute. And then what about living one? Well, that's where you get into this whole concept, which can have a look at, of mattering more. And then how do you leverage it? By impacting more, by being more impactful in what you do. Now, that doesn't mean overpowering. It means more impactful. So whenever I think about this thing and differentiating and purposefully, I think of this guy. This is my friend Simon Sinek. And many of us would know that Simon, in 2009, when, as he put it, his life was in the toilet, did an amazing TEDx talk. And then, of course, he had the book called Start With Why. And one of the things that he said, not in the book, not in the talk, but he said to me privately, he said, Paul, always, 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 always remember this. And that's the thing on the right-hand side there. The differentiation, standing out, comes from clarity of why. Now, let me add something to that. It comes from clarity of why, from clarity of purpose, as opposed to, let me give you the whole sentence. Differentiation comes from clarity of why, as opposed to getting obsessed with what. Now, that's really important to get that, because many of us are concerned with what we do. We're concerned with adding new features, adding new benefits, and all of those sorts of things. And that is so easy to get your focus on. But where we want you to be focused is on this whole thing around clarity of why. And what clarity of why means is when you have that clarity, or as Jade would say, when you're differentiating purposefully, and you are, obviously very clear. So you should be. So when someone says to you, well, tell me why do you do what you do? You shouldn't be saying, well, it's kind of, I think it's, you should be able to literally nail it. And let me give you an example, because you might say, well, okay, Paul, give me an example. Well, let me give you a personal example. Here's why I do what I do. Now, there's some little things in this that are really, really interesting. So he said, I get up every morning to help entrepreneurs around the world create amazing businesses. Now, the word that I want you to underline, see, I could stop there, right? I get up every morning to help entrepreneurs create amazing businesses, okay? But the crucial thing, Jade, as we were discussing with all the guys up there in Bali, was to add those two little words. And the words are so that. And once you add the word so that, then your purpose automatically becomes bigger than you. And that's the important thing. Your purpose has to be bigger than you. Or as Simon Sinek would say, true purpose is always human. So let me continue this. Create amazing businesses around the world so that they change more lives and do more good in our world than they ever imagined possible. Now, the other little test on this is that imagine that someone said, well, why do you do what you do? And you go, blah, 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 blah. What you really want people to be able to say once you're differentiating purposefully is oh, my God, I want to be a part of that. Right? And they should be saying that whether they're an investor, a potential customer, a potential team member. And you can only be attractive, if you will, to those people when you are absolutely clear. Now, Jade, I know, thank you for just giving me some space to talk about that, but I know you might have some observations, comments, or insights on it. So why don't you go?
Definitely with the iLab group, especially, we had been going through what is our customer promise. And for many of them, they're looking to actually scale their team at the moment. So their promotion plan is actually around how do they get the right operating team. So their customer that they're going after is a candidate. It's someone that's super important to come on their team. And so when we were looking at the phrasing, you're getting all the sort of marketing style promises. But that piece was just so hugely impactful, because it sent them back in to really think about what am I doing? Why should someone join me? Like, what is the boat that I want them rowing on? What is the so that? What are we doing? Why are we doing this every day? So I still have from when we met 18 months ago, I still had my I wake up every day statement, and that's what gets people on my boat. And the so that, how am I going to make an impact? And I think that just for anyone, whether you're looking to build teams or not, which is what this web event's about, if you're just doing anything in the world, even if you're building a career as an entrepreneur, understanding what your I wake up every day is and what your so that is is going to give you so much more purpose in life and create far more joy, right? Because if we're sort of floating through life and having life happen to us and not really knowing why we're doing things and not being conscious, we're not consciously creating, and then we're at the whim. Like if you are the boat in the ocean, you're at the whim of the waves hitting you, and you're likely to get splashed out and get wet and drowned. Whereas if you know why you're getting up and you're on the boat and you're rowing, you're moving forward and nothing's affecting you. So yeah, I just think that that's what you've just shared there is hugely powerful to anyone, not just entrepreneurs and business leaders, and not just people that are looking to bring teams on board.
Yeah, I love the idea of jumping on your boats. I mean, that's a, you know, it's like how can others share this journey? And the answer to that is that, you know, someone once said, I mean, we spend a lot of time, and it's not inappropriate time, by the way, but let me just contrast something from that. And we spend a lot of time thinking, you know, how do we market? What do we do? You know, we spend a lot of time going, oh, it's all about SEO, or it's all about, you know, whatever the current thing is that it's all about, and advertising and all of that kind of stuff. And someone once said, if you choose a problem big enough to try and solve, people will build a path to your door. Right? Mm-hmm. And so, in other words, what you do is you'll create what we might call, or what you know, I call a blue zone business, one where not just you. Now, this is critical. Where not just you are fully on purpose, but Jay was talking about scaling, but the entire team is fully on purpose. And when that happens, the business really takes off. Now, just one little word on that. People often say, well, okay, Paul, we get this why thing, but does that mean that everybody on the team should have the same why? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that there's this concept, as you think about scaling, of which is called nesting your why. And so here's the big one, which is you as the owner, if you like, of the entity, which has created this why, which everybody goes, oh, yeah, I can so buy into that. But it may not be my why. For example, my why might be something, you know, extremely personal. Like, for example, let's say I'm a single parent. Let's say I have 3 kids, and let's say it's a bit challenging to put food on the table. So my why might be I get up every morning to, you know, go to work so that I can put food on my table, so that my kids can, you know, and here's the point, so that my kids can live a really fulfilled life and inspire the people that they connect with, right? Yes. Does that make sense? And so you've got your own one underneath this one, which you buy into as well. So, and by the way, frequently, you know, this is amazing. I see people who are trying to build companies, and they sit around with their team, and they say, so what do you think our why should be? Seriously, they do that. Exactly. Bang. You know, so this has got to be you. This is an element of leadership that is just so crucial to just, you know, absolutely.
I was doing an exercise actually with my little sister the other day, about how to drag out her why. Like, I can see her why, but she hasn't formed it yet. And so we went through a couple of questions around how we can start discovering that for ourselves. Do you have maybe 2 or 3 questions you think someone could ask themselves when going, okay, what is my why? Because it can be really scary. A lot of people are like, I don't know what my why is. And they forget, like what you said, it can be just about providing a better life for your kids, or being
so
the light
that
for
they
else.
But see how you get it off yourself, right? So it's providing a better life, mate. So that it's that extra little leap out there, you know. So it's not about, you know, you building, you know, the sexiest company in the world, right? Or you having the fastest response, or you having the most amazing customer service. All those things are there, but there's got to be a so that, you know, so that by virtue of what we do, we're inspiring people each and every day, so that they in turn inspire others. You know, it's it's that kind of thing. So it's got to get off yourself. The other thing that's really interesting is, and again, the guys at iLab know this simple idea. Sometimes you're right, Jade. Sometimes we see or connect with people who, for whatever reason, get blocked on it. And I think the reason they get blocked on it is because they sometimes they get that the why is so critical, it becomes almost like, oh, it's so big, and I can't find it, right? So there's a very simple little technique. I talk a lot about the power of small and how tiny little words can change everything. And so instead of saying, I get up every morning, why not just put 2 words at the beginning of it and just go, for now. Those are the words, right? For now, I get up every morning.
One of the girls wrote "for now" on her arm to have the iLab. So she's
really?
walking around with "for now," and we had on the other side "I am enough," but not "I am enough for now." We're always enough, but for now, just to help her through this, because we're working on a promotion plan at the moment as well. So
sure.
Sometimes with businesses, it can become too overwhelming. We think we're stuck with something forever and get so overwhelmed that we need to make it perfect, and we can just break it down into the for now piece, and I think that can take away a lot of the anxiety, right?
Yeah, exactly. It can. And I might put a little note up later about a book I'm reading right now about life in the Philippines. And the reason that's interesting is, if you think about the Philippines, some of us would think, oh, poverty, right? Because we know there's a lot there. And this writer points out that that the environment. This is why I love the arm. Right? I love what just happened, because the writer points out that your environment can dictate your performance. So, for example, if you're living in that kind of environment, and you go, oh, well, that's who it is. That's who I am, right? And it's very difficult, perhaps, to get out of it. So I'll send you a couple of notes on that.
Can you do that? Because we were talking about that just in terms of, what we do here as well. We talk about the environment and flow states and things like that. And we've got an amazing lady in our iLab, Judith, who does color consultancy, but she actually works with business, small to medium enterprise, on how to set up the environment to foster productivity and connection, and how that has such a huge impact on people's happiness in the workspace. And a lot of the time we don't realize, as owners, if our why is so big and we're so driven, we can work in a shitstorm and we're okay. Like, you put us in a box and we don't even care. I've got a client of mine who works out of his lounge room, expects all of his team to work out of his lounge room. There's stuff everywhere. And he can't understand why they can't get into flow, and they get all disjointed and they call in sick, right? But the environment, whether it's from when you're a kid or just for owners thinking about the space that they're putting their people in, has such a huge impact. If you want them in flow, if you want them happy, if you want them to feel the right energy, if you want to be able to foster connection and openness, even simple things like that need to be thought out. And it doesn't need to be expensive or hard, but you need to be conscious about it. So anything you can share on that topic would be amazing.
Yeah, and that's why this whole, purposefully, I think, doesn't mean just being on purpose. It means being conscious.
Yeah, conscious.
It's like there's an intention, in there as well. And yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a great distinction, because a lot of people would have seen purposely and felt, oh yeah, I've got to be on my purpose. I'm like saving the world and taking it to the man. It's not about that, as it is about that, but it is also about, just having purpose, thinking through, being conscious. Okay, if I'm going to go about interviewing, what's the purpose of the interview? So what do I want out of this? What do I want that person to get? If someone's coming to work for me, what do I want them to get out of this? How am I going to help them achieve their purpose in life as well?
Yeah. And also, a little personal story, right? So once you get it, and once you get that it's not about you, it's about something bigger than you. It's about others. We might talk about that just a moment. Now, I happen to live here, as you know, in Singapore. And right outside the condo where I live, there's a bus. In fact, there's zillions of buses, because Singapore is like a place where you simply don't need public transport and stuff, right? And so let's imagine you're really on purpose, right? And let's imagine part of that purpose is to somewhere so that, inspire others so that they live, greater lives and so on and so forth. Then just think about that in terms of how you get on the bus. Just think about it, just for a moment. Talk about intention. Now, you can get on the bus, you can hit your little card thing, which says beep, you can go in and you can go and sit down. Or you can go in, you can beep, and you can look at the bus driver and say, thanks so much for stopping. And you really can, right? And then the bus driver goes, oh my God. And the other day,
right?
Exactly. And the other day, there's a massive building project going on here, and they have the so-called foreign worker, who I've now discovered his name is Jordan Annan. And here he is, and he's dressed in this, and he's very dark skinned, right? And he's dressed in this totally yellow, luminous thing, because he's like the traffic controller, kind of thing, right? So again, you walk by, and what I noticed, he's got this big smile. So I said, "Oh, hi, good morning." And so I'm Paul, and he's like, "Oh, I'm Jordan Lennon. Oh, okay. And well done, great job, and everything else." And you can see that. And then when I got back, and I'm walking back home, here he is, and he's waving. And this is a guy on the traffic control, and so this morning when I do that, I'm going to take a little bottle and I'm going to put some juice in it and say, "Hi, this is going to help you through the day too." So my so it's not just it's not just that being on purpose helps you create a great business and everything else. It helps. When you're intentional, it helps you create this environment around you that does not suck. It's like, and those of us, those of us who, stop me if I'm rambling, but I was talking with someone the other day, someone I mentor, and she was talking about this whole thing about environment, and she said, gosh, sometimes it's very hard for me to, kind of do things and everything else. And I noticed that. She's like this, right? And my mind went instantly to Marie Kondo. Marie Kondo, the lady who comes in and tidies up your house and does like amazing things. And by the way, if you wanted a great experience, go watch her show on Netflix. It's amazing. It is amazing, right?
Making a note.
And, we should not go watch television, but what we should do is go have a look at this phrase. And the phrase she uses is spark joy. So everything you do should spark joy. So you should look at the clothes in your wardrobe, for example, and go, does that spark joy? Okay, throw it out. Maybe we need to do exactly that same thing sometimes with the customers that, I don't mean the customers suck, but they're sucking for whatever reason our energy. And we just simply, but just think about it. Is what I'm doing now sparking joy? If it's not, then maybe that's a big signal that you're not in flow, you're not whatever, and so on. So I love this whole idea of spark joy. It's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I love that. And as entrepreneurs, right, we get the choice of who we want to deal with. And it's about creating a level of comfort for ourselves to put ourselves in a position that we can choose that. One of my favorite things to do with my staff was allow them the freedom to fire a client. So, and that was a really big thing for my previous team, why they loved working for me, because I didn't force them to work with people that weren't value aligned. Like if they didn't feel, so we did headhunting and recruitment back then. And if we didn't feel that putting someone into that team was going to make their life better, we didn't do it. But other recruitment companies, you've got targets, you've got budgets, you've just got to get the job done, right? So you sometimes are left feeling icky because you don't feel like you're taking them from a good place to a better place. And if you're not taking them to a better place, then you should be doing it. And so having their power to say no and having the power to fire someone if they're not living up to their end of the deal is huge. And so, you know, we've got to get our businesses into the state that we're not coming from a negative vibration or desperation, that we need the clients. And I think if we are on purpose and we know why we're doing things and what the bigger picture is and what the so that is, we don't just think about the short-term money. We think about the long-term impact and ripple effect on everyone involved in that process. And that can be from buying a water bottle and making our choice about the supplier, and maybe it's going to cost me 30 cents more to get it made somewhere else, but I know that it's not made by a child, because I know that purposely I care about greater humanity. And when we come from that space, all of our decisions can be made that way.
I just love it. By the way, Leanne just said, said a couple of maybe 5 minutes ago, so it's about values alignment first. You're right on, Leanne, absolutely right. And Jade just gave us a wonderful way of checking values alignment, and what she's, I think, now going to produce is an icky meter. So look at something like this. Right? There may be maybe it's wrong. And you know what? That can I share my screen again so that and again the guys at ILAB are going to go, oh, and I remember this because Paul spoke about that. So let's have a look at this. And this is just, again, just a way of framing. Remember, we talked about how framing is really, really important. So let's have a look at this example of framing. And to do that, let's just go back to our main kind of idea, right? So you've got legacy, leaving one, living one, leveraging one, and then we've got differentiating purposely, which we've just spoken about, and then this whole idea of mattering more. So let's have a look at this thing of mattering more just for a minute, and everybody's going to go, oh, I remember this. Okay, so, or at least those people watching us now. But look,
it's actually written on the flip chart. I just walked into the room before, and it's on the flip chart still.
But that one, the challenge is not to be successful. The challenge is to matter.
No, the living love. The legacies.
The living king. Yeah, okay. So have a look at this. The challenge is not to be successful. The challenge is to matter. Now, see, so remember now we talked about differentiating purposely and then mattering more, right? So why would we say mattering more? Why, when I finished the session up there at Vision Villas, which is just an awesome, by the way, talking about being surrounded by an environment, and talking about environment dictating performance. I mean, how cool is it? I mean, just thinking about it makes me go, oh, how cool is it to be in that space? I mean, it's just amazing space. But anyway, let's have it. And I know you're gonna talk about later how some people might want to join you in that space as well. So that's going to be interesting. So take a look at this, and as you look at it, go back to go back to when you were a kid, go back to when you were at school, go back to all of your advisors and all of that kind of stuff. And what they say, well, you got to be successful. You've got to be successful. You've got to do all of that. And I get that. I mean, it's not wrong, but have a look at this. And what if they said, you've got to matter? What if they said that? You've got to matter. Because the reality is that the more we matter, then the more we will be successful. So now here's an interesting thing. So how do you know that you're mattering? Well, one way that you know it is that you move in terms of the people that you're working with. Let's talk for the moment about customers. You move from dispensable to indispensable. Does that make sense? If you can make that shift from dispensable to indispensable, kind of interesting shift. Now, what's interesting is that shift from dispensable to indispensable is very tough to do if you're trying to work with everybody that comes before you. Does that make sense? It's very challenging. But if you can carve out a niche, or people joining us from the US would say niche. I have no idea why they say niche, but you know what I'm talking about. A niche, okay? Then it's so much easier now to really matter within a niche. Now, having said that, what people sometimes think that means is, oh, okay, well, I have to ditch everybody who's not in that niche, that ditch of the niche. And I get that. I absolutely get that. And that's generally speaking true. However, once you've figured out how to deal in that particular niche, whatever that niche is, and people talk about, inch wide, mile deep, and all of that kind of stuff. Once you figure that out, then one of the things that you will have also figured out is how to build systems that let you work in that niche, and not just systems that satisfy you, but systems that themselves delight and inspire. Okay? So once you've figured that out, and it's probably, you've got other people doing things now, then guess what? You can then go, and you can develop another niche. You can develop another niche, and another niche, another niche, right? Once you focus on this whole thing about mattering, really, really crucial to be able to do that.
Keep going, and then I want to jump on the end of it.
Oh, please go.
It just made me think about being a boss and how mattering more can apply. And it's the whole reason why I do what I do, so that I can help create workplaces that foster happiness. So the whole thing is around, I want to be the world's largest enabler of humans that are happy at work, because it had small goal, right? But because work causes so much stress, anxiety, depression, and worry, and the ripple effect that has on humanity, people going home, like John has a bad day at work, boss is an asshole, day is tough, he gets home, little Johnny comes and taps him on the leg and wants to play, he snaps at little Johnny thinks he's not enough. That can permeate and grow with him for the rest of his life. If we can just have the purpose of mattering more to every single employee we have and how we can impact their life. Sorry.
Exactly right. Exactly.
If you can teach your staff to smile at the traffic controller, then that makes that person's life. Imagine every one of our staff went around being like that in the world.
Well, here at B1G1, and by the way, before I get on to that, it's always appropriate, obviously, and we should do it, is to acknowledge where things come from. So that's where that one comes from, right? That's Seth Godin.
The man.
Absolutely.
The man.
Absolutely.
I'm loving your minimum audience stuff. Yep.
Yeah. And the new book, of course, This Is Marketing, is really cool. And then if you look at that a slightly different way, and I want to come back to what you said, and also to what Leanne is saying up on the chat there. And here's the thing, right? If you're thinking about mattering, then you matter more. I mean, it's like one of those, it's obviously you matter more when your mission is about serving others as opposed to serving yourself. Now, does that mean that you shouldn't care for yourself? Of course it doesn't, right? Because you can't care for others unless you care for yourself. You can't. But what it means is, again, getting this sort of bigger issue out here, which links back to that whole thing around being purposeful or differentiating purposefully. And the other thing that I think is really interesting, you talked about your team there, and how we build great teams. And one of the things that we do, for example, at B1G1, and sadly I'm going to miss it this morning because I'm here, but that's okay, is we have a huddle, and so many people do that, of course. And what we do is there we are in our tiny little team of whatever it's 7 or so. And each day, then we have this little thing that we know that today is, Sally's day or John's day or whatever it is. And so let's say it was Paul Day today, then the way we begin it is we will tell a story of something that occurred with something that we saw, something that we were part of, that led back to a thought on our values. And our values, by the way, happen to spell something, which is do care. And the DOC, they stand for various things. And so we will always bring it back to, and that reminds me of the D, which is desire to improve, for example, right? And then we go around and we talk about, what we're going to do for the day and how anyone needs help and stuff and like that. So, but the idea is that, of course, this permeates everything, literally everything that you do. So this, the things that we're talking about here are not just things. They're not just things that we're talking about here, right? They're things that we want you to go suck it in, so that they really become part of you. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, I can touch back in on those values for a second, because, like you said before, not everyone's going to have the same why. Some people's why is just to provide a better life for their family, and so. They might choose to come on your team because they think your why is cool and they want to be able to serve that. It's just not their primary why. But if we look at values, and as long as we're hiring around our vision, mission, values, and our core beliefs, our what we stand for and what we stand against, then you're going to have a harmonious team, but you're all going to be doing better in the world, right? So you might attract them because of your bigger why, but you don't need to hire them because that's exactly the same why. But do not hire them if there's a value disalignment.
Oh, that's like,
and do not join a company if there's a value disalignment. Like, if that's where you get that really icky feeling, that's where the stress, anxiety, and issues really come from, and that's where teams I see completely fall apart. So I just wanted to anchor back in onto the value part there.
Well, and what's interesting, I mentioned earlier on the power of small, right? And this whole thing about for now or so that or whatever, right? So let's just think about the power of small as it might apply to teams, and let's think about organizations that we might experience every day, and let's see, or at least fairly frequently, and let's have a look at what we experience. So let's, for the moment, take 2 airlines. Let's say there's one that begins with V and there's one that begins with Q, and you can work out what they are. Right? So it turns out that if you are flying on one of the ones that begins with Q, or there's also a J that's associated with them, and you open up, the in-flight magazine, right, and you'll see, message from the CEO. Okay, that's what you'll see. And when you have a look at that, it'll say things like, our passengers, we carried like 1 million passengers this past month, whoa, all that kind of stuff. Now, internally, here's the interesting thing, right? The interesting thing, stay with me. The interesting thing is, and I know this because I used to consult to some of these people, right? So internally, what do they talk about? What they do not talk about is passengers. I don't like that term anyway, but what they talk about is PAX. How many packs? How on earth can you build an extraordinary company if everybody in... Let's go to the one that begins with a V. Okay. And so what word do they happen to use? Well, if you use the word PAX, there is no values alignment at all. And even the word customer, they really like this. What do they use? It is guest. Okay? Guest. So it's like, so you read the one that begins with V, and it will say, we carried 1 million guests. You just see it. And so Exactly. You're feeling it. You really are feeling it, right? And so if you think about it, if you just follow the drift on this, right? So it's differentiating purposefully, okay, and all of that, and intention. It's getting it off you. It's creating the right environment. It's mattering, right? All of that kind of stuff, and it's inspiring. Hopefully, it's inspiring. Now, you cannot be inspiring when you talk about taxes. You can't. And so well, you can, but when you get back, I mean, you can in a. Exactly, but when you're at home, when you're in that private little area, when you're in a team meeting, how many packs is it? Well, come on, that isn't. But how many guests? So again, it's this whole sort of joy thing there again. So I just want to underscore that sometimes we give away those values by the words that we use. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, because if you are in that team meeting, how are you humanizing that experience, and how is your customer service team going to want to really do better for the customer if they're a PAX, not a human?
Yeah. So
the power of words, and that's a really important thing, I think, for leaders. And I was actually talking to the team about it yesterday, is our energy and the words that we use and the ripple effect that has. If we come in and we start talking to our team in those abbreviated bang, 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 not conscious words, that has a ripple effect that comes down and it anchors a memory. And if you do that on somebody's very first day of work, that shit can't be undone. Like, remember, first impressions count. So if you've got someone coming into your business on their first day, they're getting onboarded, and they hear language like that, and they hear that people aren't cared about or different things about the values, that's the message that sinks in, because they are thinking, well, this is my first day. You're going to try and impress upon me all the great things you want me to know, all the most important things. And that can be an unconscious programming, because, as humans, first impressions count. So we think that they're going to put your best foot forward. So if you don't consciously just choose how you're going to show up on the first day of a new employee, and how everyone else is going to act, and how their day is going to go, and the feeling you want them to go home with, then you can't blame them if they leave, or you can't blame them if they fail. It's your fault as the leader for not setting them up for success, and not framing them and showing them that they matter.
Exactly right. And again, exactly. And what you're talking about now is and this whole thing, and this is why we need to work at it, right? It's like this is why we need to spend time not just thinking about this, but we need to spend time actually in an environment where we're doing it. And that's why, of course, the things that you've got coming up in Bali are kind of interesting, because you can hear us now, and hopefully get some great value from what's going on. But you can also, I think, sense that this is not just about getting it here. It's about immersing. It's this whole thing about immersing yourself in it, so that you become surrounded by it, so that after a while you don't even have to think about it. Right? It's just who you are. Yeah.
I tell you what I really loved in your presentation, when you talked about delivering happiness and all the points along a customer journey, right? And how you said the guys from Dent Global went and looked at their how they touch every customer. For me, I have something that's called an employee success blueprint. And we look at everything from the minute a potential employee comes in contact with you, and we run the whole same structure about how we can matter more and have more impact, and to create the feelings along every string of that journey, from when they don't even know they want a job with you, and you're just a visible leader coming out, to how do they feel once they send the resume, like they read the ad. How do they feel when they get an application callback? What's the feeling after the first interview? What about when they get offered? What about their first day? What about their 3 months? What about when they leave the business? Because we've nurtured them so much that their bigger why is ready to grow, and it's time for them to move on the world. And they're the best referrals we have, and they want to send people back to us to grow them. Like, where's the touch points to matter more along every part? And thinking about people get scared that, what if you train them and they leave? What if you don't and they stay? Thank you, Richard. But
yes.
But if we want to impact more, if we want to matter more, if we have people working under us that spend more time with us or more time in our business than they do with nearly any other human in the world, right? So how can we help them matter more and have more impact and then set them free into the world to make a difference?
Let me give you an example of that, Jay. That's brilliant stuff. And let me just give you a simple example of someone or an organization. And there are, Jay and Martine, you would know there are thousands of them that we could point to. But just no, but there are, right? And it's about getting it. And when you get it, you really do different things. Let me show you an example. Is it okay if I show you, Jade? Is it okay if I show an example of a recruiting place? Is that okay?
Oh yeah,
Would that be okay?
Yeah.
All right. It's a good example. It's a good example. Okay. And what this leads into is this whole thing around values, this whole thing around purpose, whole thing around mattering, and that final little thing that we had on our three things, that whole thing around impacting, right? Yeah. So have a look at this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going live. This whole thing is live, but I'm actually going live to the web, to a site. Okay, so hopefully it'll all work. Okay, so let's just do that, and in order to do that, of course, what I need to do is just share my screen. So let me share my screen, and if everybody joining us now would cross your fingers, you can also do that when you're driving. You'll see something here called Rio Group, okay? And I wish I could freeze the page on there. Have a look at that, elevating human potential. Kind of an interesting way to think about what you do, be the best version of yourself. It's about time to, but here it comes again, I think, this whole thing around elevating human potential. Now, here's the question. If it's kind of like a nice thing, right? That what we do is we elevate human potential. But now, how would you get that's part of the values? How would you get that's part of their vision, their mission, and all of those sorts of things, their purpose, right? And so let me show you how you would get it. So I want to go here just for a second, and and we go down why I work with this and all those kind of stuff. Oh, now all of a sudden we see something interesting. Can you see that?
Yes.
Elevate a nation, right? Now, this particular company happens to, I'm going to show you what they do in just a second, but they're obviously part of B1, well, maybe not obviously, but they are part of B1G1. They're a B1G1 member. And when they joined, it was all about how could we bring everything together? How could we bring purpose? How could we bring mattering? And how could we bring impacting together? Now, I want you to imagine right now that you're one of the execs, you're one of the team members at Rio. And by the way, they consult to high-end financial fintech companies. Okay, so you would know, Jade, that when they get a recruitment job, it's multiple dollars, right? It's thousands of dollars, right?
Well, if
so
they're
here's
what
they're
going to be upwards of $25,000 to probably $35,000 a pop.
Oh, yes, exactly.
So it's substantial, yeah.
So what they used to do on a Friday is they would have let's call it this is perhaps, I'm sure they didn't call it this, but a lot of companies on a Friday have like a beer bust. I think that's the sort of Australian phrase that's sometimes used, where we all get together and go, "Oh, that was really great," everything else. Now, what they would do during this time is, if let's say Sally would have done a great job this week as measured by this particular contract, for example, that she got, this particular recruiting contract. What would happen is people go, "Wait, Sally, you got the job," and Sally would get an envelope, and inside the envelope would be sometimes some money or something that said, "Well done."
Mm-hmm.
What now happens is a complete change, and this is all about these three things that we're talking about being like, come on.
Yeah.
What now happens is this: we would certainly honor Sally. We might give Sally an envelope, but inside the envelope, there might be, in fact, would be a B1G1 certificate. Well, it's not a certificate, but a thing which would say, "Hey, Sally, well done. We're so thrilled on the team here. We thought you'd love to know that as a result of you getting that particular thing, 53 kids, 53 Indigenous kids, just got educated for a year as a result of what you."
Wow.
Boom.
I got goosebumps.
There you go. And that's this whole thing here. Okay? This whole Elevator Nation thing. And, and then you see that little B1G1 thing over here. And by the way, what's also interesting is look at this goal. By the year 2021, we want to provide 50,000 days of education.
Oh, wow.
Now, that doesn't say we want to make $1 million or 3 million or 10 million. It doesn't say that. And you know why? Because true purpose is human. That's why. Okay? And it's not about it's about mattering. It's about getting something bigger than yourself. And seeing that where some companies that really get what what you talk about are really doing this in spades. And by the way, it's really interesting. I just want you to know it's really interesting hanging out with you. You know why? Because when we started, I had no idea at all that I was going to show you right all. Right? And I didn't. That was completely unplanned. But I hope valuable. But here's the interesting thing. See, when you are with people who inspire, then all of a sudden you start. Your head starts going in different places, and just as a result of having conversation, bang, other things pop up, which hopefully add to the inspiration.
Yeah, and this is something that I talk about as well, and it's been fed through iLab. And I think maybe you even touched on it when you were here, thinking about the sum of the 5 people we spend the most time with is who we become, right? And that doesn't necessarily have to be specific name of a person. It can be a type of a person, like an avatar, and people you seek to spend the time with. Because once you start talking about this, the iterations that can happen and the conversations that can happen, and then just one little thing can make such a big difference to someone's world. Like someone might be sitting down today, they go to leave a cafe, the man standing on the street, and they give them the smile. And that could be the one thing that stops that person from having the worst night of his life. And
without any doubt,
that ripple effect. And so, I love.
I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking about. Obviously, people. Lots of them joining us on Facebook right now, and here on Zoom, and some of our guests are, as you said, joining us at Vision Villas. Let's just think about that for a minute. Let's just think about that. In relation to what we've been talking about here. And let's say for the moment that lunchtime comes, right? And we go, oh my God, I'm so hungry, and you so you get the thing, right? And it's gone. Or when you're doing this intentionally, And when you're realizing the bigness of all of this, you're sitting down with that amazing food at Vision Villas, and you've got a green goddess or something like that in front of you, and you've got your spoon, and you could go, wow, that was amazing, right? Or you could just get the spoonful and just look at it for a minute and just intentionally realize the love and the care and everything else that's gone into that. And again, that then flows through to how you spend your day, right? So it's these little tiny things that surround us that are, where it is. And that's, again, why, spending time up at Vision Villas is kind of interesting. And, Roger Hamilton once said that, I mean, how many times did Roger Hamilton once say things? I mean, it's one but he said that where we are right now is simply a product of the moments. That that we exactly, and when we start to realize that and try and make the do all the things that we've been talking about, not just not just like once off, as a intentionally, literally every moment. By the way, what I was, excuse me, looking away, but I was just wanting to, just for the people joining us now.
Oh, you lost call for a second.
Working, yeah. And this is what you just spoke about. It's about, again, making it bigger than yourself, and it happens to be, there we go,
there it is.
Boom, like that. It's 17 things, right?
Yeah.
And 17 is rather cool because there happen to be 17 United Nations global goals. And so all of these things now can flip back into being one, and we can find various ways of doing it. And again, all that's doing is just institutionalizing. Bad word, but well, I'm not sure what other. Yeah, it's like building an environment. That's what it's doing. It's building an environment where all these little things lead to everybody looking at it without realizing that you're deliberately purposeful, that you're mattering, your impact, without realizing it. They go, oh, there's something going on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and imagine that's the string I was talking about. Imagine that was applied to how we deal with our employees from day dot to the day that they move on to do even bigger things, and how we can teach them to matter more at each of those stages. I'm just looking at a comment from Leanne. She touched on about the 6 core. She says, as the 6 core needs of Tony Robbins states, without growth and contribution, we cannot be happy. One of the things that I teach is understanding those 6 core human needs and overlaying them with some of the stuff I learned from the guys at Mind Valley, who have been in the top 10 happiest places to work in the world for the last 10 years, right? How can we look at those 6 human needs and design our physical environment in the office, but every stage of what we do in our work day to serve that for us and the people we come in contact with? So if we were conscious about how we can fulfill those 6 human needs, imagine what it would be like getting up to go to work, which is what most humans spend 70% of their time doing, right? Going in and having an impact of everyone else around us, everyone in our team, everyone that we interact with, everyone that's our customer, and we were being conscious about how we could fulfill people's human needs, the place is going to be a happier world, right? And if we're just that little bit happier and had a little bit more gratitude, maybe we'd stop blowing each other up as much.
Yeah, we would. There's no question we would. And actually, talking about being around people, are you going to tell people about this wonderful thing that you've got coming up? Are you going to talk about that?
We probably should, right? I just want to talk to you all day, and I'm so selfish. I'm like, I just want more Paul, which we'll talk about how we can integrate more Paul into it. So Vision Villas, you've touched on how amazing it is here. The whole place is curated to design flow state, right? We've got different barlays, and actually anyone who's interested in it, I've been doing lives on my Facebook of our barlay check-ins every day about the energies, the frequencies, and the genius zones, and what the question is that goes with it, so that we can be conscious about the states that we need to be in when we're creating these programs. So I feel really blessed that, well, I'm blessed, but I'm also intentional. Like when I met you 18 months ago, I set the intent that I would partner with Vision Villas because I thought the place was amazing and I love what they do, and went, I'm going to partner with them. So now I'm partnering with them. So on the 1st of March, I'm actually running a masterclass here called Team Engineered. The reason why it's engineered, it's about being conscious. It's about us going, right, what do we do? Deliberate. How do we be deliberate and conscious to create the result we want? And we're going to spend 3.5 days going through all of these things on how we can apply it to not only attract a world-class team, how we can retain them. So how do we keep them on the boat? But then how do we maximize their human potential? So that's not just selfishly for us, that's about for them as well. So, and for us as well. Because if I'm going to be the world's largest enabler of humans that are happy at work, that starts with the founders. And that's my so that I can have the biggest impact on the world. That's how I can make more happy people. That's how I can serve humanity. So we start with the founder and use that as the ripple effect to drop down. So if anyone wants to know more about coming here to Vision Villas and doing that with me in March, or just wants to touch base with me around how we can overlay this sort of stuff into the business, I think Martine's going to drop a link to my Book Me page, and I've opened up, oh, there she goes. She's on the ball. And I've opened up my calendar. iLab officially finishes this afternoon. So I've got a little bit of,
oh my
gosh,
really?
We're doing our ceremony this afternoon, our lanterns. We're going to Roll Foundation as well. Like straight after this call, we're doing our give back day, and we're going to go to Roll Foundation. So Fantastic. It's a great day to be here. But it does also mean I've got some time in my calendar for the next few days. So Paul, I want you just on that though, can you just promise to put a couple of links for me on the chat about B1G1? Because for me, when I talk about creating the teams and the culture, what you showed us there with Rio is really something I want people to think about, and that's how we do get people to matter more.
Yeah. Well, there you go on the chat there right now is where people can go to b1g1.com.
Yeah. Beautiful. And they can ask me more about that too, because I know you're going to upskill me in and how we can plug that into places to have more of an impact.
Oh yes, some really interesting things happen, and I think today actually, I think we just crossed 107. Talking of impact, I think we just crossed 171 million giving impacts.
Wow.
Well, yeah, but there's like it's pretty extraordinary, isn't it? And but we really shouldn't get sort of too excited about we should get excited about B1G1, but really what it is what happens when you can take time with and build something and attract people to it. It's kind of like a movement, and it starts from you doing all of the things that we talked about here, so it's really interesting that until B1G1 we thought that it was all about big things. We thought it was like you had to do these big sort of charity donations and all that kind of stuff. But as it's not.
No, the power of soul.
Every time. Yeah, you do it from 1 cent. Like every time, you send an email, a kid gets access to water, for example, right?
Yeah.
And you can choose to do all of those things. And so one of the great things about that is it's not something that you do once a year. Let's go to the sort of charity ball thing or whatever.
As a token.
This is something that can be a part of each and every day, and you just mentioned gratitude as well, and shouldn't that be a part of each and every day as well? So I just want to say how grateful I am to be able to hang out with you. It's just extraordinary.
Oh.
I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking about all of the people who have the privilege today of doing that physically with you, and you know, the whole ceremonies that are going on to really lock in what I'm sure for everybody in that room there now has been an amazing 2 weeks in their life, but just 2 weeks that are going to multiply out to magical weeks in not just their lives, but in everybody else that they will touch from here.
Yeah, and we're already talking about how we're going to get together after this as well, because there's been some amazing bonds and friendships and accountability groups made out of it as well. So this has been an amazing group, especially for such a big one too. Everyone is so cohesive, and I think it's because we started with the why as well, and it's that intention that was sent 2 weeks ago. Honestly.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, I think that I can speak for everyone who's there, that there's a lot of gratitude for the both of you for how you show up. You both have an incredible sense of passion. Like Jade, your vision and your mission and just your big overarching why is definitely going to attract people to you, to your main event. And Paul, I've been furiously writing notes every time you speak. I'm just so inspired to be able to matter more and to be able to do better and do good and have small impacts that really count. So I have the deepest gratitude for the both of you for sharing your time and your passion, your energy, and your real gift of insight to not only the group in front of you, but for everyone who's shown up live today.